You don't remember your name right away. You wake in the dark, wrapped in someone else's blanket, on someone else's bed, in a chamber that smells faintly of ash and cold wool. It's early, earlier than the bells. The fire's gone out again. The wind keeps slipping in through the cracks in the stones. You don't open your eyes yet, not because you're asleep, but because you're not sure who you're supposed to be today. The castle is still. So still you can hear the frost gathering on the windowsill. You can hear the breath of the servant girl on the pallet beside the door, and the echo of a memory you've never spoken aloud. Once, long ago, before the marriage, before the war, before you learned to smile without meaning it, you believed your life might become a story. But now you wonder, what if you never made it into the story at all? What if history erased you, not with fire, but with silence? Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see. You lie still beneath the worn wool blanket, staring at the low ceiling. The stones are older than your grandmother's bones. The bed creaks like it might confess something, and there's a feather poking through the mattress. Just one. It always finds you. You could move. You should move. But the heaviness of mourning is harder than any blanket, so you stay just a little longer, somewhere between dream and duty. No one will come looking for you, not unless you're late, and even then they won't knock. They'll just expect you to know better next time. You used to ask questions, but now you know the answers are worse. This isn't the kind of castle with dragons or heroes. It's the kind with cold corridors, hollow eyes, and duties wrapped in silk. The kind where girls grow into wives before they understand what they've lost. You were married last winter. Or was it the one before? No one tells you what to feel when you're given away like land. They only tell you to smile, to curtsy, to be quiet. Quiet is a virtue. Quiet is survival. Your mother told you that. Your grandmother whispered it like a prayer. And their names? Already forgotten. Outside, the frost has crusted over the courtyard stones. The stables are still. The guards are swapping shifts without words. You can smell the coal smoke beginning to rise. Somewhere, bread will soon bake, but not for you. Not yet. And here, in this breath between darkness and duty, you remember the moment before the wedding, the cold floor beneath your feet, the pin stabbing your shoulder, the priest's voice so far away it may as well have come from a dream. You wanted to ask, "Is this it?" But instead, you nodded. You smiled. You stepped into a life that had already begun without you. Your husband isn't cruel, not exactly. He leaves you a seat beside him. He allows you your books. He listens sometimes, but when he speaks, it's in the tone of someone managing inventory, not marriage. When he touches you, it's with the care of a man trying not to spill wine on a scroll. Still, he's better than the man your cousin got, and worse than no one. There's a silver hairpin on your table, a gift, perhaps, or a message. He didn't say. You haven't worn it yet. You're still deciding whether it means something or nothing at all. The servant girl stirs. She rubs her eyes, not seeing you watching her. She's young, too young to already carry that tired look. But this place ages everyone. The stone does it. So do the stairs. So does the silence. You sit up, slowly, carefully. The straw mattress groans beneath you, full of secrets and splinters and the ghosts of last winter's fleas. You stretch your fingers, sore from embroidery and too many letters written that no one will read. And for a moment, just one moment, you wonder what your life would be if you'd never been born to this name. What if you'd been a baker's daughter or a falconer's apprentice? What if you'd been free? But freedom is for the dead or the forgotten, and you are neither. Not yet. You pull on your gown, wool, thick, not elegant. You bind your hair. You wash your face with water so cold it feels like penance. And you stare into the burnished copper mirror, not to admire, just to remember where your face begins. There are no paintings of you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You will be remembered, if you're lucky, in footnotes, in ledgers, in your children's names. Not for your thoughts, not for your silence, not for this moment right now where you are more real than the queens in the tapestries. The bells begin. First one, then another, slow, heavy. The sound rolls through the castle like a memory too old to explain. Time to go. Time to smile. Time to play your part in a game where no one plays fair. But still, before you open the door, before you enter the stone halls lined with old dust and older eyes, you allow yourself one last breath of stillness. The fire hasn't been lit. The sky is still blue-black. Your hands are cold. But in this silence, this slow, aching silence, you remember that someone once wrote your name in the margin of a book. And someone, maybe you, once tucked a note inside a hidden page. It only said one thing: we were here.
You walk slowly through the stone corridor. The air is colder here. It always is, as if the stones themselves never quite forgive the warmth. The flagstones beneath your feet are uneven. You know each one by feel. Your steps fall in rhythm with the silence. You pass the old tapestry, the one with the hunting scene, a stag, 3 dogs, a prince with red thread for blood on his sword. The colors are fading now. No one talks about it. No one repairs it. It's like the truth of the house, left to hang until it unravels. Your slipper catches on a loose corner. You steady yourself against the wall. The stone is wet with mourning, or perhaps with memory. You keep walking. The hallway turns, then opens into the hall. This is where the court gathers, a long, drafty space full of echoes and dust. At this hour, only a few are here. The steward speaks in a low tone to a scribe near the hearth. A page is stacking cups too carefully. The fireplace cracks, without real heat. And your chair, still empty, always waiting, sits beside his. You sit, slowly, your back straight like your nurse taught you, your hands folded, your expression carefully pleasant but unreadable. You do not fidget, you do not slouch, you do not stare too long at anyone, especially not at him. He enters a few minutes later, your husband. He does not look at you, but he nods. Once. That is his way of saying, "Good morning." It used to make your chest ache. Now it only tightens your hands in your lap. He speaks to the steward. Numbers, names, grain stores, a road that needs mending, a complaint from a tenant about wolves or men pretending to be them. None of it is meant for you. And yet, you sit through every word. That is your duty. You are his shadow, his ornament, his proof of alliance. You sip watered wine. It tastes like regret. You wonder sometimes what your mother would say if she were still here. She would not be impressed by this place. She had a sharp tongue and sharper eyes. She would have found the weak spot in every man here within minutes. But she would have smiled and said nothing, saving it for the night. She used to tell you, "A woman is a sword in a velvet sheath. You will learn to bend, but never to break." You remember how her voice sounded when she said it, like someone who had already bent too far. The morning drags. A vassal arrives to deliver a report from the southern estate, something about a broken mill. He bows too low. He glances at you once, just once, and you recognize the look. Not desire, not admiration. Recognition. He remembers you from before. A market day, a harvest festival. You were laughing probably before the wedding, before you learned to laugh without sound. You glance away before the memory becomes something real. Later, you walk the outer gardens. Not for beauty. It's winter, and everything is bare. The trees are bone white. The hedges trimmed back so harshly they look like punishment. The roses are thorns and ghosts. But it's quiet here, and no one follows you. You walk the gravel path slowly, each crunch like old paper. You breathe in the cold, sharp air. You tilt your face toward the sun, which is barely more than a pale circle behind clouds. You remember a different garden, your uncle's in the south, full of herbs and bees and hot light. You'd lie on the grass for hours listening to cicadas and not worrying about anything. And now? Now your world is stone, wool, and silence. You reach the far wall. It's older than the castle itself, overgrown, cracked, a piece of the old world, forgotten and crumbling. You come here often, you never tell anyone why. There's a hollow in the wall, a place where the mortar gave way years ago. It's just big enough for your hand. Inside it, hidden behind a loose brick, is the book. Not a grand book, not a sacred one, just a small one, bound in green leather, soft and worn. You found it the first month after your wedding, when you were still pretending to explore. It has no title, just a name, written in a hand too elegant to be casual. E. No one knows who E is. Maybe no one wants to know. Inside are pieces of a life, pressed flowers, a scrap of faded lace, a poem with the ink washed away by tears or rain, and a note, just one. It reads, "If you find this, you were meant to leave something behind." You haven't yet. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't know what part of you is still yours to leave. The sun dips behind a cloud again. Your fingers are cold. You press the book back into its hiding place. You smooth the brick. You stand. And for a long moment you wonder, what if E was like you? What if she also smiled too politely? What if she also sat beside a man who never saw her? Maybe she left the note for you, or maybe you're just another shadow passing through someone else's unfinished story. You walk back slowly. The wind rises. It smells of smoke, horses, and distant snow. A raven calls from the roof above. Someone drops a bucket in the well court, the echo sharp and startling. Back inside, you pass the hall of banners. Each banner tells a story, victories, lineage, power. but none of them mention the women who stitched them. In your chamber, the fire has been relit. The maid curtsies and leaves. You sit in the wooden chair near the hearth. You unpin your sleeves. You rest your hands in your lap. And you whisper something, not a prayer, not quite, just a word, a name, yours. Softly, just to remember how it sounds. And outside the castle, in the cold gray wind, no one hears you.
The fire has burned down again. It always does, just before evening. As if it knows when the servants are busiest, or when your body starts to ache from the stillness. You sit near the hearth, wrapped in a shawl that used to belong to your sister, or maybe your aunt. You can't remember anymore. The stitches are loose. One thread hangs like a question. Outside, the snow begins to fall, soft, reluctant. Like it isn't sure it's welcome. You haven't spoken in hours. Not because there's no one to speak to. The maid comes and goes. The steward delivers your evening list. A priest nodded in the corridor. But none of them speak to you. They speak around you, as if your silence is part of the furniture. That suits you, most days. But tonight, it feels heavier. You look again at the drawer. You've been looking at it all day without meaning to. It's the small one, the one you never use, the one you told the maid to leave alone. Inside it is a letter. Still sealed, still unopened. It arrived 3 days ago, with a dozen others. Most were about trade or grain, or someone's request for more sheep. But this one came without a seal. Just a folded page tied in blue ribbon. Not court blue, not royal. The kind of blue worn by boys who tend bees, or girls who sing to their own feet. There's no sender written, but you recognize the handwriting immediately. You haven't seen it in years. His name isn't one you say out loud anymore. Not here. Not where names turn into rumors before the candles are lit. But the moment you saw the script, the lean slant, the small curl on the S, your breath caught. Like you were 17 again, hiding behind the ivy wall with your shoes in your hand and a smile that made your nurse suspicious. He'd written you once before, after the wedding. A short note. Just 4 lines. You never wrote back. Not because you didn't want to, but because you didn't know what you'd say that wouldn't betray someone. Him, your husband, yourself. And now here it is again. Another letter. Unopened. You reach for it. Slowly. The parchment is thicker than the others. Heavier. As if he knew it might be held for days without being read. The ribbon is slightly frayed, not from time, but from handling. From the nervous fingers of someone who rewrote the message 5 times before tying it shut. You almost open it. But instead, you place it in your lap. The sky outside is going blue-gray now, the kind of color that makes the world feel forgotten. You hear the faint sound of boots in the corridor. The steward is delivering the supper trays. Someone spills something near the stairwell. No one apologizes. You remember the last time you saw him, the man who sent this letter. You were still unwed then, still full of answers to questions no one had asked. He wore brown wool. He smelled like horsehair and honey. He called you by your real name, not your title. And when he looked at you, it felt like he saw you, not your dowry, not your father's crest, just you. It scared you, because it made you want something. Not jewels, not lands, just freedom. A door left open. A laugh shared in daylight. A life that belonged to no one else. You didn't choose that life. No one asked you to choose. The letter sits quietly in your lap. You run your thumb along the edge. It's not trembling. Not quite. But something inside you is. What if the words inside are a goodbye? What if they're a beginning? What if they're nothing at all? You think about the garden wall, the hollow brick, the book with no title and the note that said, "Leave something behind." Maybe this letter is the thing you were meant to leave. Unopened. Unread. Untouched. Maybe this story ends without answers. Or maybe it doesn't end at all. The door creaks. Your husband enters. Not with noise, he never needs it. His presence fills a room the way smoke fills a cloak. Quietly, without asking. He sees you. Sees the letter. He doesn't ask. He never does. He removes his gloves. He pours wine. He speaks about the evening meal, the bishop's upcoming visit, the falcon with an injured wing. You nod. You smile. You play your part. The letter stays in your lap. A question you don't dare answer. Later, when the room is dark and the candles have gone out, you lie awake. The blankets are heavy. The air smells of iron and wax. You can hear the wind trying to slip through the shutter cracks again. He sleeps beside you, still as stone. His breath shallow, regular, distant. And you think again of the letter, of the ribbon, of the name written on the fold in a script only you would know. You don't cry. Not because you're strong, but because the tears dried up years ago, stored somewhere deep where no one looks anymore. You close your eyes and you tell yourself softly, tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll decide what to do. Tomorrow you'll read it or burn it or tuck it behind the wall. Tomorrow You'll stop pretending it means nothing. But tonight, you sleep with it beside you. Unopened, unspoken, still whole, like you used to be.
You don't sleep deeply. Sleep comes in patches now, thin ones, like worn cloth. You drift in and out, rising with every creak of timber, every shift of your husband beside you, every sigh of wind outside the shuttered window. When morning comes, it doesn't feel like arrival, just a softer kind of darkness, a gray that slips in under the door and settles in your bones. You turn your head. The letter is still there. You left it on the table, beside your comb and the dried lavender that refuses to keep the moths away. The ribbon hasn't moved. The page hasn't curled, but somehow it feels heavier, as if it gathered weight from your silence. You rise slowly, careful not to wake him. Your feet find the floor with practiced ease. The stone is cold, as always. You dress without speaking. The wool gown, the thick stockings, the cloak your sister sent last winter, lined with rabbit fur, a luxury no one comments on aloud, though everyone notices. You don't look in the mirror. You know what your face will say. Instead, you open the window just a little, just enough to let in the morning smell. Wood smoke, frost, the faintest trace of horses down in the yard. You close your eyes, and you try, quietly, to imagine what your life might have been if you'd read the first letter, the one he sent after the wedding. Would you have left? No, that's not how it worked. You had duties, vows, a family name. But would your heart have been softer now, less full of stone and polite silence? You walk to the table. You place one hand on the letter, just for a moment, just enough to feel its shape, still unopened, still holding something. It's strange, you think, how a folded page can feel like a choice. Later, in the chapel, the priest is reading again. He always reads too slowly, as if the words are heavy and need to be dragged up through centuries before they can reach your ears. You sit in the front pew, not because you're pious, though you've learned how to look it, but because this is where wives sit, where the steward can see you, where your absence would be a sentence all its own. Your hands are folded in your lap. Your head is slightly bowed. You hum a prayer just loud enough to be heard, just quiet enough to be mistaken for devotion. And yet, your thoughts are far away. You think of a field, not a grand one, just the one behind the grain house where you used to run as a girl. You remember the way your skirts caught the wind, the feel of grass against your bare ankles, the sun on your shoulders, the dirt in your teeth, and the boy who once stood by the tree line watching you, not with lust, not with hunger, just with interest, as if he didn't know whether to laugh or look away. He was the first person who ever asked you what you wanted. You didn't know how to answer then. You're not sure you do now. The priest drones on. You nod at the right places. You murmur when the others do. But your mind drifts back to the letter, back to the way it arrived without warning. No crest, no mark, just ink and paper, and a memory knocking softly at your door. You haven't told anyone about it. Not the maid, not your husband, not even the steward who notices everything and pretends to notice nothing. There are few things that still belong to you. This letter is one of them. After chapel,
The day unfolds the way it always does. There's a meal, boiled oats, salted pork, bread hard enough to bruise your gums. You eat with small bites. You smile at the night who never stops watching you. You nod at your husband's comments about the upcoming feast day. You speak once, a polite remark about the weather, and everyone agrees with you too quickly. You excuse yourself before the meat is cleared. No one stops you. Back in your room, the fire is crackling. The maid has left it burning higher than usual. Maybe she noticed the look in your eyes this morning. Maybe she remembers what day it is. Not a feast, not a holiday, but the anniversary of your arrival here. 2 winters ago you crossed the threshold of this castle as a bride. The doors were open. The halls smelled of rosemary and smoke. Your hands were shaking inside your gloves. You didn't cry, but you wanted to. You remember your father's words as he handed you over like a sack of grain. You're ready. He was wrong. You sit by the fire. The cloak is still around your shoulders. The letter is on your lap now. Again. Your thumb runs along the ribbon. You press it gently. Then for the first time, you pull it loose. The ribbon falls. You stare at the fold, at the name written in small, careful letters. Yours. Just your name, not your title, not your family's crest. Just you. You close your eyes. You don't open it. Not yet. But you press the page to your chest, softly, quietly, like someone holding the last warm thing they'll ever touch. And in that moment, for the first time in days, you breathe deeply, fully. Outside, snow begins to fall again. Thicker this time. It covers the courtyards, the stables, the footprints from morning. It erases everything. And in the soft hush of that erasure, you feel something move inside you. Not hope. Not yet. But maybe the memory of it.
You wait until nightfall. The castle quiets early in winter. The halls go still. The fire in the great hearth burns low. Plates are cleared without laughter. Conversations drift apart like smoke. Everyone retires to their rooms, or to their secrets. You stay by the window. The shutters are half closed, but you've cracked them just enough to see the snow. It's still falling. Steady. Soft. The kind of snow that covers mistakes, that smooths out footsteps, that makes even the roughest walls seem gentle. You sit at the small table beneath the window. The letter is in your hand. Not folded anymore, not hidden. Just there. Open. Waiting. You haven't read it yet. You told yourself all day you wouldn't, that you'd toss it into the fire, that nothing good could come from remembering things that never became real. But here you are, at the table, holding a past you never gave yourself permission to want. Your hand trembles as you begin. Not because you're afraid of what it says, but because part of you already knows. The handwriting is the same. Neat. Thoughtful. He always wrote like someone afraid of being misunderstood. The ink is slightly smudged at the corner, a sign he paused before finishing. Maybe he was unsure. Or maybe he knew that writing to you was a kind of trespass. Still, he wrote. And now, softly, slowly, you read. I dreamed of your hands again. Not your face, not your voice, just your hands, as they were that day by the orchard. You dropped the apple and laughed before I could catch it. I've tried to forget that laugh. I've tried to forget a lot of things. But forgetting is a kind of dying, isn't it? You stop there. Your eyes close. The memory arrives before you can stop it. That day, the orchard, the way the sunlight dappled through the leaves, the way your feet itched inside your boots. And you didn't care because someone was looking at you like you mattered. Not as property, not as proof of a treaty, just as a person. Your throat tightens. You press your palm against your chest. The letter shakes slightly in your hand. But you keep reading. I won't ask you to write me. I won't ask you to answer anything, or to remember more than is safe. But I needed to say this once, even if no one else ever reads it. You were my what if. And I hope that in some small part of your life, you still are your own. There's no signature. Just space, as if the rest was unwritten on purpose. You stare at the final line for a long time. You were my what if. The words don't shout. They don't plead. They just exist. Quiet, gentle, real. The fire cracks behind you. You don't move. Not for a long time. The snow outside thickens. The sound of the wind deepens. Somewhere down the hall, a door groans shut. The castle groans with it. You fold the letter carefully, not to hide it, but to keep it safe. You don't cry. Not because there's nothing to mourn, but because the ache isn't sharp. It's soft, like a bruise, like an echo. You slip the letter beneath the lining of your jewelry box, not among the jewels, just behind them, next to a pressed flower, a ribbon, a bit of broken lace you've never been able to explain. And for a moment, you sit in the silence, not just hearing it, feeling it. And it feels different, less empty. You lie down on the bed. The mattress is still too hard, the fire still too dim. Your husband's shadow still looms on the far wall. But for the first time in many nights, your breath comes easier. He never asked you to run away. He never asked you to betray anything. He just wanted to be remembered, to exist, somewhere in your memory, in the small space between your duty and your dreams. You let him in now, just a little. You fall asleep thinking of hands, not yours, not his, just hands, open, reaching, letting go. And in your dreams, the orchard is green again.
Days pass. Not many, just enough for the letter's edges to soften and the ribbon to vanish into the folds of your jewelry box. You don't read it again. You don't need to. The words are still there, not just on paper, but in the way your footsteps feel a little quieter now, the way your eyes drift to the window more often, the way silence no longer sits so heavy in your chest. He didn't ask for anything, not your loyalty, not your love, not even your reply, just remembrance. And so you remember. Not all the time, not when people are watching, but when the halls are empty and the fire is low, you remember. The snow hasn't stopped. It piles softly in the courtyard, covering boots and wheels and the uneven flagstones. The guards trudge through it without complaint. The steward mutters about supplies. A boy slips with a bundle of firewood and swears loud enough to be heard through 3 walls. No one laughs, but no one scolds him either. It's a season of stillness, of cold fingers and cracked lips, and soup gone lukewarm before the bowl reaches your hand. Your husband is quieter too, not unusually so, but enough that you notice. He's distracted at meals. He reads longer in the study. He forgets to finish sentences. Something stirs behind his eyes. Not emotion, exactly. More like calculation. You know that look. It means something is shifting, out there in the world of politics and borders, and men who gamble with names like yours. He doesn't tell you. He never does. But you feel it anyway, like smoke seeping under the door. You walk the long corridor to the northern tower. You do this sometimes. No one asks why. No one follows. It's the one place the servants don't go without reason. The air is colder here, the stone darker. At the top, the chamber is empty, dusty, abandoned. Half a tapestry hangs loose where moths have eaten through the lining. There's a broken stool near the window, a crack in the floor from where lightning once struck, long before your time. You sit near the window, on the stool if it holds, and you listen. To the wind, to your breath, to your own name echoing in your memory, as you once said it, gently, without title, without expectation. Just a name. Just you. You take out a piece of parchment. Not to write back. That wouldn't be wise. Not here. Not with watchers in every corridor, eyes behind every curtain. But you write something. You don't even mean to at first. It begins as a line, a word, then another. No greeting, no signature. Just a thought. A small truth you haven't said out loud since the day you wore the wedding veil. I wonder what I would have been if no one had been watching. You stare at it, then slowly fold it in half, not to send, just to keep. You place it in your sleeve, and for the first time in days, you smile, just a little. At supper that night, the air feels different. Your husband speaks less. The steward stands too close. There are whispers in the shadows. You eat in silence. Your knife scrapes against the wooden plate. The meat is tough, the broth thin, the wine sourer than usual. You excuse yourself before the pears are served. No one stops you. You hear your name, not spoken exactly, but half-breathed as you pass behind the steward's chair. You don't turn around, but your hands go cold. In your room, the fire has been lit, the curtains drawn. The maid has left a bowl of warm water and a clean robe. The letter remains hidden. The ribbon has curled in on itself like it knows it's been seen too much. You stare at the hearth, and you feel the weight of the paper in your sleeve. Still folded, still small, still just words. But words are never just anything. You think of the line you wrote. I wonder what I would have been. A wife, a widow, a mother,
A traitor? A name buried in a ledger? Or something else entirely? No one ever asked. No one ever does. You step out onto the balcony. The wind bites at your cheeks. The snowflakes are slow tonight, heavy. They drift like thoughts you're not ready to catch. Below, the courtyard is empty. Just footprints, just tracks, just the shadows of things once moved. You close your eyes, and you wonder again what it means to belong to no one, not to a husband, not to a name, not even to a memory. Is that freedom, or is that just forgetting? Somewhere inside the castle, a door slams. Far, distant, but real. A voice rises, not shouting, just sharp. Then silence. You don't flinch. Not anymore. You return to your room. You place the folded page beneath your pillow. You lie down, still in your robe. The fire warms your feet. You close your eyes, and before sleep claims you, you whisper, not loud, not brave, but real, I'm still here. And outside, the snow keeps falling, covering everything, even the sound of your own name.
The snow is lighter this morning. Still there, still soft on the roof tiles, still clinging to the windowsills, but melting at the edges, where sunlight finds the cracks. You sit by the hearth, a book open on your lap. You're not reading it. The words blur, your eyes drift, the pages feel heavier than they should. Because you know. You've known for a while now. You're being watched. Not openly, not yet, but the signs are there. The maid lingers too long by the doorframe. The steward glances twice when passing your table. Even the priest looks at you differently, as if your silence is too neat, too practiced. Something has shifted. You've done nothing, you've said nothing, and yet they look at you like you might. Like they're waiting, not for rebellion, but for evidence. You think again of the letter, still folded, still hidden, still echoing in your chest like a second heartbeat. You didn't reply. You didn't leave your mark. But maybe the change was enough, not in what you did, but in how you carried yourself. You used to move through this castle like smoke. Now, maybe you carry a little fire. The library is quiet when you enter. No one follows. The door creaks behind you. The candles are half burned. A layer of dust sits along the windowsill, fine and undisturbed. You choose a scroll at random, one about taxation in the western counties, dry as chalk, and sit at the far table near the cold glass. But you're not here for the scroll. You're here to think. There's a question forming in you now, a quiet one, but persistent. How much of yourself can you keep before someone takes it anyway? The letter was small, private, barely a whisper, but this place has a way of turning whispers into sentences. Not the written kind, the lived kind. You remember what your grandmother used to say when she still had her sharpness. There's no such thing as a secret in a house built for echoes. You didn't understand then. Now you do. At supper, the air is brittle. Conversation snaps like twigs. The steward is too polite. The night is too quiet. Your husband speaks only once, a comment about the cellar's inventory, and does not look at you again. The food is good, surprisingly good. Roasted duck,
carrots in honey, bread still warm from the oven. But no one eats with appetite. Something is coming. You don't know what, but it has the shape of a question you won't be allowed to answer. After the meal, you return to your chamber alone. The fire has not been lit. The room is colder than usual. You check the drawer, the one where the letter once was, still untouched. You pull the jewelry box forward, slowly. You open the lid, the ribbon is there, the folded page, your note hidden behind the brooch you no longer wear. And something else. A scrap of parchment, unfamiliar, folded once. Your fingers pause. You didn't put this here. You open it. There are only 3 words, written in a rushed, angular hand. They already know. You don't move. You don't breathe. For a long time the room feels like it's shrinking, as if the stone walls have pulled in closer to listen. You fold the note, calmly, carefully. You place it back beneath the brooch. And you sit. Just sit. Hands in your lap, eyes on the hearth. The fire still unlit, the air still sharp. You don't cry. You don't panic, because you knew. You always knew. Someone saw. Someone heard. Someone guessed. Maybe it was the maid. Maybe the night. Maybe no one at all, just the castle itself, always hungry for new rumors. But now the question becomes, what happens next? You rise. You light the fire yourself. It crackles to life. Slow, reluctant, like it doesn't want to help you, like it doesn't want to be seen with you. You warm your hands anyway, because that's all you can do, for now. Later that night, you dream again. Not of the orchard, not of the letter. This time, you're in the corridor, alone, barefoot, the stone cold beneath your feet. You walk slowly, passing door after door, and every one is closed, not locked, just unwilling. At the end of the hall is a mirror. You reach for it, but before your fingers touch the glass, you wake. Your husband isn't in bed. You hear him in the other room, speaking low to someone you can't see. The tone is measured, formal, controlled, like someone deciding something. You close your eyes again and pretend not to hear. You don't know what's coming, not yet, but whatever it is, it's already walking the halls.
The next morning arrives like all the others. A pale light seeps through the shutters. The frost clings to the corners of the glass. Somewhere in the corridor, boots thud against stone. A bell rings, not a chapel bell, just a kitchen one, summoning the stew pot. You open your eyes, and you know it before you move. Something is different. The maid does not come. Not at first. Not with your water, not with your bread, not with your usual quiet knock and muttered apology for waking you too early. When she does arrive, she's not the same one. A different girl, taller, sharper, unfamiliar. She bows too quickly. Her eyes stay on the floor. She says nothing. She lays out your clothes without asking. No choices, just the gray wool, plain and stiff. No lace collar, no jewelry. You ask where the other girl is. The new one shrugs. No one ever leaves here with a story. Just an absence. You dress slowly. Not from dread, just from caution. Each thread feels like a question. You tie your hair yourself, You bind it tightly, like armor. You keep your hands still. You don't ask anything else. Because silence is the only language you're still allowed to speak freely. At breakfast, your seat is still there, but the bread is stale, the wine is thinner, the butter has vanished. No one mentions it. The steward avoids your gaze. Your husband, too. He speaks to the night about grain tariffs, to the chaplain about repairs to the chapel roof. To you, not at all. You don't press. You chew each bite like it matters. Because it might. When the meal ends, your husband rises first. Usually he waits. Usually he gestures. A small motion, a courtesy, a habit wrapped in protocol. Today, he walks away. No gesture, no glance, nothing. You sit there a moment longer, then rise without a word. You walk the long corridor, slowly, the one with the banners. They haven't moved. The light hits them differently today, that's all, as if the faces stitched into them have turned their backs. At the end of the hall, the door to the chapel is closed. You reach for it. It doesn't open. No lock, just resistance. You don't knock. You simply turn away. Later you go to the garden. Not the outer one. That gate is bolted now. You try the door to the southern tower, the library passage, also closed. No note, no warning, just wood where there used to be space. The message is clear. Not punishment, not yet. Just placement. You are no longer being trusted to move freely. You return to your room. The fire is out. Your hands are cold. The maid, the new one, says nothing when she brings the water, but her eyes flick toward the chest by the bed. Just once, too quick. You say nothing. But when she leaves, you open it. The letter is still there. So is the ribbon. So is your small folded page. But now, they've been moved. Not taken, just handled, searched. You sit on the edge of the bed. The cold finds your skin through the gown. You stare at your own hands. They look calm, but they don't feel calm. They feel like they're waiting to be accused. You think of the orchard again, the sunlight, the apple in your hand, the way you laughed that day, not out of joy but surprise, at the idea that someone might want you, not what you represented. You think of him, of his quiet words. You think of the note left in your drawer. They already know, and now you do too. You rise. You remove the folded letter from the chest. You place it in the hearth, but you don't burn it. Not yet. You sit beside it, and you wait. Time passes. Footsteps in the corridor. Voices in the courtyard. The low murmur of someone praying too loudly in the chapel. You wait until the snow starts again. Then you strike the flint. The fire hisses. The flame catches. You watch the edges curl. The words disappear. No one will read them now. Not even you. The room smells of ash. The maid returns with your supper. Barley stew. Cold. No meat. She glances at the hearth. Says nothing. You eat every bite. Then thank her. Her eyes flick to yours for just a second too long. Maybe she knows. Maybe she doesn't. It doesn't matter now. Later, you lie in bed, facing the wall. Your husband doesn't come. Not tonight. Not the next. You dream of corridors, doors that do not open, rooms where your name was never spoken. And in the dream, you are still yourself,
but smaller, less real, like a story someone stopped telling halfway through.
The morning light doesn't reach your window. Not today. The sky is too thick, heavy with low gray clouds that press against the roof like a second ceiling. Even the snowflakes have stopped, as if they're waiting too. You sit by the hearth, the fire still smoldering from the night before. A curl of smoke rises lazily. It smells faintly of the letter, of ash, of memory. You don't feel regret. Not exactly. Only the soft ache of something you'll never read again. The days have narrowed. Your movements are watched now, not openly, but with the kind of absence that feels louder than presence. Doors are unlocked, but harder to open. Passages once familiar are now filled with unfamiliar faces. You've become contained. Not punished, not imprisoned, just gently kept in place. Even your meals arrive cooler than before, as if warmth is something you've been deemed unworthy of. You write nothing. Not on parchment, not in letters, not even in the margins of the old book hidden behind the library wall. Words, you've realized, are what they fear most. Not swords, not rebellion, but speech. The idea that a woman might say something no one gave her permission to feel. Your husband still avoids you. Not cruelly, not dramatically, just methodically. He dines later now, reads elsewhere, prays more often. His silence is not cold, just final. You are not an equal. You are not an enemy. You are a closed chapter. He's moved on to another page. You find small moments. Still. You walk the gallery during the late afternoon when the guards change shifts and no one is paying much attention. You pause beneath the painted ceiling, the one with the gold-leaf stars, and pretend to admire them. But really, you're listening. To the silence. To the sound of your own breathing in a world that's trying to forget you. You begin humming again. Just softly. Only when you're alone. A tune from your childhood, simple, wordless, familiar only to you. You don't know why you do it. Maybe to prove you're still here. Maybe because it's the only thing they haven't taken. One evening, a note appears beneath your tray. No seal, no name. Just a scrap of linen folded twice. Inside, a single sentence. They watch the words, not the eyes. You read it once, then burn it in the hearth. This time there is no lingering. You do not hesitate. You understand what it means. You speak nothing now. You write nothing now. But your eyes still tell the story. The next day in the chapel, you do not bow your head. You keep it lifted. Not in defiance, not in protest, just still. And when the priest glances toward you, expecting that same demure quiet, he meets your gaze, steady, unblinking. He looks away first. You don't know who left the note. It could have been the maid. It could have been no one. A test, a trick, a trap. But you feel no fear now. Only clarity. They can confine your steps. They can ration your warmth. They can turn your name into a warning. But they cannot stop you from seeing, from knowing, from carrying the shape of the truth inside your silence. You begin watching them back. Not obviously, just enough. You notice which servants whisper, which knights linger near closed doors, which priest nods too eagerly, which steward carries too many keys. You don't share this knowledge. Not yet. But you begin to collect it, like a woman gathering seeds in winter, not to plant now, but to remember where they are when spring comes. One evening, you find yourself back in the old tower room, the one with the broken stool and the cracked floor. You sit there again, as you once did, Only this time you don't think of the letter. You think of the future. Not a grand one. Not revenge. Just a room with a window, with no guards outside it. A table, a voice, a page with your name written the way you write it. Not the name they gave you, the one you made yourself. You rise. You walk down the steps slowly, not like a prisoner, not like a lady, just like yourself. And that's enough. For now.
The snow has stopped. The air feels different now. Not warmer, exactly, but expectant, as if something unseen is moving beneath the frost. The trees outside remain bare, but the ground beneath them no longer crunches when walked upon. It yields slightly, loosens, listens. You wake slowly. Your breath is steady. Your limbs ache less. For the first time in weeks, the silence in your room doesn't feel like absence. It feels like space. And that, you've learned, is something rare. The maid brings your water at the usual time. She doesn't speak. Still the same girl, new, quiet, watchful. But her hands shake just slightly when she pours. You thank her, softly, deliberately. She looks up, startled, eyes wide. No one thanks her, not in this castle, not for cold water and cold bread and warm silence. You nod once, not kindly, not coldly, just like someone who sees her. And then you say her name. She doesn't answer, but you see the way her shoulders rise. That's enough. You dress without help. You choose the wool gown again, but this time you add the blue ribbon, the one tucked into your coffer, long ignored. It isn't fancy, it's frayed at the edges, but it's yours. No one comments on it at breakfast, but the steward notices. And that's the point. They have closed doors to you, so now you choose which ones to open. You walk the long outer corridor, past the gallery and the stairs to the chapel. You pause at each window. You look fully, not like a woman passing time, but like someone taking account. The grounds, the stables, the guards, the rhythm. Nothing changes, not yet. But you begin to understand the pattern. That, too, is a kind of power. You don't smile, you don't speak unless spoken to, you nod when appropriate, you bow your head at chapel. You perform your role perfectly, but you no longer feel it. You are playing a part now, consciously, completely. And they don't know the difference. In the West Wing, the steward speaks with the chaplain behind half-closed doors. You pass quietly, unseen, but you hear your name. Not clearly, just once. Enough. Enough to know you remain part of the game, even if they pretend you've been removed from the board. That night, you light the fire yourself again. You warm your hands slowly. You sit with the old book, the one you never finished. You begin to read again. Not from the beginning, but from where you stopped. The story is about a falconer's daughter, simple, plain, a background character in someone else's tale, until one day she disappears from the text. No explanation, no farewell. And 20 pages later, a new voice appears in the story.
A clever servant, a shadowed figure, someone whispering advice to a young noblewoman just when she needs it. The book doesn't say it's her, but you know. Somehow, you know. You close the book. You trace the cover with your fingers. And for the first time in weeks, you feel something that's not dread, not resignation, a pull. Not strong, but steady. You remember the tower. You return to it. Late. Quietly. The stone steps creak underfoot. The room is just as empty, just as cold, but this time you bring something with you. A single sheet of parchment. No words, not yet, just the intention. You press it flat on the windowsill. You stare at it. And then you begin. You don't write names. You don't tell stories. You don't leave proof. But you begin mapping something. Not escape, not rebellion, but just the truth as you see it. Where people stand, what they say, who looks and who doesn't, who repeats, who listens. A pattern begins to form. You're not sure what it means, not yet. But now you have a page, a place to hold what you're not allowed to say. Back in your room, the maid returns with your robe and basin. She notices the blue ribbon. Her mouth opens, closes. She leaves without a word. But just before the door shuts, you hear her hum, very softly, a tune you recognize, your mother's tune. She must have heard you on those empty afternoons when you thought you were alone. You listen now, after she leaves, to the quiet, to your own breath, to the sound of something beginning to turn. They haven't taken everything. Not your name, not your eyes, not your hands, and now, not your story. Not yet.
The day begins without color. Everything gray. The sky, the stone, the cloth at your table. Even the fire feels washed out, as if it too is waiting for something. You sit by the window. Not reading, not writing, just watching. There's nothing new to see. The same guards, the same frost, the same buckets carried from the well to the kitchen and back again. But the stillness is useful now. You've learned how to see through it. Patterns, pauses, the way one servant never walks near the West Hall, the way one night always lingers near the grain stores just before dusk, the things no one is supposed to notice. You don't write them down today. You don't need to. Some things stay sharper in the mind than on the page. You walk the corridor slowly. You let your steps echo. Let them be heard. You pass by the chapel. The priest is speaking to the steward again, their heads close, their voices lower than prayers. You don't stop, but your footsteps pause just slightly, long enough for them to know you noticed. You continue walking. You don't look back. In your chamber, the old book is still open. The page is blank where you left off, not because the story ended, but because the writer stopped. You stare at it. A falconer's daughter. A vanished girl.
A whisper returned as something else. No title, no ending, just space. You begin writing again, but not the story you were reading, not hers, yours. It's not a letter, not a journal, just a record. Your voice tucked between lines no one asked you to write. They say I arrived here with 10 crates of linen, 3 casks of honey, and a father's blessing. But I remember only the shoes that pinched and the ache behind my ribs. I do not miss the person I was before, but I do miss how light she felt. I do not plan to leave. I only plan to be seen. You fold the page. You don't hide it. You place it in the open book, pressed under your ribbon, on the desk, by the window, where anyone could find it. Not a scream, not a threat, just presence. At supper, your husband arrives late. He speaks little. He glances at you once, too long to be casual, too quick to be warm. You meet his gaze, calm, level, still. Then you look away, not down, away. After the meal, he asks to speak with you. For the first time in weeks, in private, in the long stone corridor near the inner garden, where the air is always colder, where voices vanish before they reach the arches. You follow. You don't hesitate. He does not accuse you. He asks nothing. He speaks in measured tones about alliances, about appearances, about the shape of winter and the harvest expected in spring. But underneath his words is another voice, one he doesn't say aloud, one that sounds like, "Stay where I can see you. Remember who you are not. Don't remind them you still think." You nod. You smile. You answer carefully. But inside, you are writing another page. That night you return to the tower. The wind moans through the broken stone. You sit on the cracked stool, and you think, what if this is how stories begin? Not with battle, but with breath. Not with fire, but with paper. You write a second page, then a third. Not every day, just when the silence grows too loud. You don't write for them. You write for whoever finds it next, whoever tucks something behind a brick and waits for someone else to see. You leave no name, only the mark of your ribbon, a thread tucked between pages, and a single line. This is not a warning. This is a reminder. You sleep that night with a calm that isn't peace. It's something else, something older, something truer.
The snow returns overnight, not in flurries, not in silence, but in a soft hush that makes the world seem newly drawn, every edge smoothed, every corner quieted. You wake slowly. The fire still glows. The shutters are closed. The air is still cold, but it feels gentle today, like it's choosing not to bite. You rise, wash, dress in silence. The maid enters, as always, carrying your water. But something is different. She doesn't glance at the hearth this time. She glances at your desk,
and then back to you. Just once. Then she leaves. You don't rush to look, not until the room is still again. You walk to the window table. The old book is where you left it. The ribbon still marks your place, but something rests beside it now. A flower, dried, pressed flat, pale blue, cornflower, out of season, impossible to have found in the snow. Someone saved it, and someone placed it here, silently. No note, no signature, just presence, just echo. You sit gently. You touch the petals, fragile but intact. You don't smile, but something inside you eases. You're not alone, not entirely. Someone else is watching, not as a warden, but as a witness. You leave the flower untouched. You open the book. You write a single line beneath your last. I hear you. Then you close it. Nothing more. Let the silence do the rest. In the corridor, the guards have changed again. One of them nods, the younger one. He nods back. He doesn't speak, but his hand rests on the hilt of his sword like it's familiar, not threatening, as if he's here to remember, not to strike. You walk past, unbothered. At dinner, the stew is hot again, the bread softer, the butter returned. You eat in silence, but you feel watched in a different way now, not just by the steward, but by the maid at the door, by the night across the hall, by the air itself, as if your silence is no longer mistaken for weakness, but for choice. After supper, you return to your room. The fire is already lit. Your robe is warm. The flower remains where you left it, untouched, still waiting, still listening. You don't go to the tower tonight. Instead, you sit by the hearth. You take up your parchment again, and this time you write something more, not for memory, not for the next woman, but for yourself. A page about names, about how you were given yours by someone who never asked you who you were, how it fits too tightly some days and hangs empty on others. You don't sign it, but the page ends with a single thought. What would I be if I named myself? You fold it, slip it behind the old pages, close the book, and for the first time in a long while, you sleep before the fire dies. No dreams, just warmth. Somewhere, behind another door, someone moves at the same time. Someone who leaves no footprints, but knows where the book is now, knows you've written, knows you are still yourself.
The snow melts in the corners first, along the edges of the flagstones, beneath the eaves, around the courtyard well. You watch it drip, soft and slow from your window, chin resting on your hand, breath fogging the glass. You've been here before. This season, this silence, this castle. But something's changed. Not outside, not openly. Inside, the stillness feels less empty now, like it's holding its breath. You check the book just after midday, not in a rush, not expecting anything, but when you open it, your fingers pause. There, between the pages,
not where you wrote last, but several leaves forward, tucked inside a fold, a note. Not parchment, cloth, cream-colored linen torn from something older, perhaps a collar or sleeve. The writing is faint, fewer words this time, but enough. I remember you used to run barefoot in the south fields. You cursed the brambles. You never looked back. That's how I still picture you. You don't cry, but your hands close slowly around the linen. The memory arrives before you invite it. The field, the grass, your feet bleeding, laughing, a voice behind you calling your name, not to stop you, but to keep up. You didn't know then what you were running from, only that it felt good to run. You press the cloth flat across your knee. You don't respond right away, not with ink, but you wrap the linen in one of your own ribbons, gold, thin, worn from years of forgotten braids. You place it back inside the book, not as a reply, as a return, a shared page. Later, you walk the eastern corridor. The sun catches in the cracked window panes. The light is gentler now, no longer pale, but warm enough to show dust. You pass the priest, who gives you a look that once meant warning. Now it's wary. You pass the knight, who nods once, barely perceptible. You pass the steward. He doesn't look at you, but he knows. And that's fine. Let them wonder what you've said. Let them imagine you've spoken. You don't need to. In the garden, the air is soft. You cause by the old sundial. There's no time on it anymore. The face is cracked, the numbers half worn. But it's there, still marking something. Not hours, perhaps moments. You place a hand on it, just to feel the stone. You say nothing, but you wonder softly, what if this silence is the loudest thing you've ever done? You return to your room in the late afternoon. The fire is already set, unlit. The maid brings your supper and places it gently on the table. She lingers. You glance up. She meets your eyes. Then, slowly, like someone choosing a side, she places a folded napkin beside your cup. Inside, pressed flat, a feather. Not one of yours. Falcon. Small. Dark. A sign. Or maybe just a message. I see what you see. You leave it on the windowsill. Let the wind take it if it wants to. Some truths are meant to move. That night you write again. One line only. Some pages write themselves. I only turned the light on. You leave it in the book. You don't look to see if it's taken. That's not why you write. Not anymore. You sleep early. You wake once, in the dark. Not afraid, just aware. You light no candle. You close your eyes again. The silence holds you like a story that hasn't been finished yet. And maybe that's what you are now. Not forgotten, not erased, just unfinished.
The morning sun finds your room before you do. It slips through the shutters in soft golden strips, lighting the edge of your blanket, the curve of your writing desk, the ribbon still tied around the old book. You open your eyes slowly. Your breath is steady. The fire has burned low, but not out. You sit up, not with urgency, just awareness. Something's here. Not danger, not dread, just a presence. The maid has already come and gone. You see her footprints on the rug. The water basin is warm. The tray carries your bread and broth, as expected. But beside the tray, not part of it, something wrapped in linen, neatly folded, small, too careful to be casual. You pause before touching it. Your fingers hover. Then slowly you lift it. The linen smells faintly of beeswax. Inside is a piece of cloth, thicker, older. You recognize it before you even fully unfold it. It's yours. A handkerchief, pale green, embroidered years ago, when you were still learning how to stitch letters. Your initials, uneven, are sewn in the corner. A thread of gold curls across the edge. You lost it the week after your wedding. Left it in the chapel, or the stables, or in someone's palm when your fingers trembled and you didn't know why. And now, it's returned. No note, no explanation, just the cloth. Like a memory, carried carefully across time and given back with quiet hands. You press it to your lap. The ache that follows isn't pain, it's recognition. You remember how small your hands felt when you made it, how hopeful, how certain that something this delicate would last. And it did. Just not the way you expected. You don't ask who returned it. There are too many answers. Maybe the maid. Maybe the night. Maybe someone who knows your name but has never spoken it aloud. Maybe someone who's seen the pages you left behind and knows that not all things are meant to be kept secret. Some are meant to be kept safe. You place the cloth beside the flower, the feather, the pages, not in hiding, on display. A shelf of quiet truth. Not rebellion, not confession, just evidence that you were never as invisible as they wanted you to believe. The castle is quiet today. Snow clings only to shadows now. The stones have shed their winter weight. The halls echo with the sound of boots, not bells. There's work being done in the western storerooms, crates moved, voices muffled, something being prepared. You're not told what, but you're not surprised anymore, not by the things they choose to keep from you. At supper, the room is fuller than usual. Your husband speaks with the steward. His voice is steady, but you notice the tension in his hands, the way he doesn't finish sentences, the way he glances at the guard near the door too often. They're planning something, or avoiding something. You listen, as you always do. You eat slowly, and you leave the table before the fruit is served. No one stops you. No one dares. Back in your room, you light the fire yourself. The flame catches easily tonight. No wind, no resistance. You sit beside it, quiet, still, and for a moment you hold the cloth in your hands again. You press it to your cheek, not for comfort, for proof. That night, you don't write. You don't need to. The castle has spoken in return. The game continues, but now you're playing too. Not by their rules, by your rhythm, one gesture at a time. You fall asleep with the cloth beside your pillow. The fire flickers. The night doesn't come to claim you. It just lets you rest.
The courtyard is being swept. Not cleaned, swept. Not with the usual brooms or passing feet, but with precision, with purpose. The flags have been hung again, freshly brushed, the gates polished. The worn stone steps cleared of mud. Even the stables smell of something less like horses and more like effort. It's the kind of preparation that only means one thing: visitors. You notice it without being told. No one announces anything to you these days, but you've learned to read the castle's movements better than you read its people. You see the signs in the silver being brought out from the cellar, in the polished plates, in the velvet drape over the dining table, too rich for daily use. Something, or someone, is coming. You sit near your window, watching the steward pace the yard. He points, he frowns, he rubs his jaw the way he does when something's delayed. You don't ask him. You don't need to. The last time the castle looked like this, there was a feast for a noble family from the western border. A daughter, a proposal, a quiet deal made over roasted lamb and too much wine. That daughter never returned. You wonder if you'll be expected to smile again, to dress brighter, to sit straighter, to become decoration. A shadow that speaks when spoken to and listens without flinching. You don't mind listening, but you've grown tired of being silent for them. In your chamber, the maid brings you a gown. Not wool, not gray, a deep green, fine linen, threaded with copper at the collar. It's beautiful, and not chosen by you. You run your hand along the hem. The stitches are perfect, the fabric soft. It fits the part they want you to play. You fold it gently, but you don't put it on. Not yet. You go to the old book. The ribbon is still there. The flower faded now. The cloth folded beneath. You write nothing. Instead, you take a page, one you wrote weeks ago, maybe longer, and read it again. A memory of your mother's laugh, of the first time you saw the sea, of the night you didn't cry, even though everything in you wanted to. You trace the words with your finger. Then you fold the page. You slip it into the gown's sleeve. Not hidden, just carried. Like a shield no one else can see. At supper, the table is fuller than usual. Extra chairs, extra plates, silver that hasn't been touched in months. You sit in your usual place. You wear the green dress. Not for them. For the story you're carrying inside it. Your husband speaks little. His eyes pass over you, unreadable. You smile once. Not for him. Just for yourself.
After the meal, you walk the outer corridor. Guards pass, banners shift in the wind. Candles burn longer than they should. You pause near the old archway. You stand where the light doesn't quite reach. And for a moment, no one sees you. But you see everything. That night, you light your fire as usual. But you leave one shutter open. You sit by the window, the chill brushing your skin, the stars blurred by frost. You don't write. You just breathe. And listen. And wait. Something is coming. Not doom. Just change. You can feel it in the stone. And you are not afraid. You sleep with the green dress draped across the chair. Your letter still tucked inside the sleeve. A quiet truth. Ready, if needed.
You don't mark a date. There is no line in the dirt, no circle on the calendar you don't own. No feast, no omen, no sign from God. But you feel it. The time is coming, like rain before it falls, thick in the air, heavy in your chest. You still haven't told him. You won't. Some truths can't be spoken out loud. They bend when said, curl up like burned paper, become something else. So instead, you prepare, not with words, with acts. The chickens are fed earlier. You pack the food tighter into the clay pots. You tuck more cloth into your daughter's bag, but casually, as if straightening it. You clean your boots again. That's what it looks like to others. But you're checking the seams, the worn leather, the weak places. If you're walking away from this life, you'll need shoes that can carry the weight. You still cook his meals. You still answer his questions. You still sleep beside him, shoulder to shoulder, two quiet bodies pretending at peace. But something in you has gone still, not cold, just decided. And he can feel it. You see it in the way he watches you now, longer, slower. He knows something's changed, but not what. Your daughter starts to help more, without asking. She brings water in the mornings, sweeps the ashes before you do, keeps her voice soft. She doesn't ask questions either, but her eyes follow you. And you understand what she's waiting for. Not your voice, not your plan, just your hand. One night you sit with her by the fire. The boys are asleep. Your husband has gone to speak with the blacksmith, or so he says. The coals glow red and patient. You take her hands in yours. She's nearly a woman now. Her fingers are slim, her nails bitten short. You don't speak, you just press your forehead to hers, the way your mother used to do when the storms came. She doesn't cry. She just breathes. And you know, she's ready to follow. The next day, you sew. Not anything new, just repairs. Stitches in the hem of her tunic, reinforced seams in your shawl, a patch inside your satchel, hidden beneath the flap. You gather things as if preparing for a long winter, and in some ways you are. You're preparing for a kind of cold that doesn't live in the weather, the kind that comes when you walk away from everything you've known. You visit the chapel too, not to confess, but to sit, on the far bench, where the draft comes in through the stones. You don't pray, not really, but you speak in your head, as if someone might be listening. If we leave, let it be quiet. If we stay, let it be quick. If I am wrong, forgive me later. You don't say goodbye to the house. Not yet.
But when you sweep the floor that night, you move slower, as if memorizing its pattern under your feet. The grooves by the hearth, the uneven rise by the door, the corner where water always pools. You know this house better than you know yourself. But that's not love. That's just repetition. Your husband returns late again. His face is wind-burned, his fingers stained. He smells of smoke and iron. You hand him bread. He eats it standing. No words. Then, as he turns to go, he pauses and says, "You're different." Not a question, just a statement. You don't deny it. You just say, "So are you." That night, sleep does not come easily. Your daughter's breathing slows beside you, steady as ever. Your husband mumbles once in his sleep, a name, not yours. You lie awake and stare into the dark. And you ask yourself, what do I owe this place? What do I owe this man? What do I owe myself? And the answer comes soft, not in words, just in the way your hands don't shake anymore. You rise before dawn, slip the bundle from the wall, check it again, silently. Everything is there. You add a folded note, not a farewell, just a truth. We're not lost, we just left. Then you cover it again, set the basin back, stand up, and exhale. Sleep now. There's no rush, but there's no doubt either. You're leaving. Not loudly, not dramatically, just as you've always done everything, quietly, completely, and on your own terms.
The moon is low tonight, not bright, not silver, just pale and patient, watching the earth the way a grandmother watches a child pretending to sleep. You sit by the hearth one last time, your hands resting in your lap, not moving. The fire has died down to glowing bones. It does not need tending, neither do you. Your daughter stands at the edge of the room, pack over her shoulder, boots laced tight. Her braid is too neat, her jaw set too firm. She's trying not to shake. You don't tell her it's okay. You don't need to. She knows. Because this time, she's not following. She's walking beside you. The baby's asleep. So is your son. You kissed both of them gently, left nothing behind but breath, not even tears. If you let them see sadness, they'll hold it. So you gave them calm, a lie before. Beyond that, there's only trust, and dirt, and silence. Your husband hasn't returned, or maybe he has, and left again. You've stopped watching for the sound of his boots. They don't belong to you anymore. They never did. You take one last look at the table, at the cracked bowl, the worn bench, the place you sat after your second miscarriage, staring at a spoon, pretending to eat. You don't feel anger or grief, only a soft dullness, like walking barefoot on old snow. You and your daughter step outside. The air is crisp, wet around the edges. A fog clings to the fence posts and the low parts of the path. Somewhere, a dog whines, muffled by distance. You don't speak. Your steps are quiet, rehearsed. Each boot print a farewell pressed into mud. You pass the well, the oak, the old man's fence, all still there, but none of them keep you. It isn't until you reach the bend in the road that you hear it, a voice, low, not sharp, just enough to stop you. Going somewhere? You turn. He's leaning against the edge of a tree, not your husband, the priest's sister, the one with the limp and the eyes too sharp for her own good. Only tonight she looks different, straighter, awake. She steps forward slowly. "I thought you might," she says. You say nothing. Your daughter grips your arm, but lightly. The woman nods at the road behind you. North is clear, south is watched. You blink. Why tell me? She shrugs. I left once, long ago. Didn't get far, came back with less than I left with. Her eyes settle on your daughter. Make sure you come back with more. She hands you something, a wrapped bundle, no bigger than your hand, heavy. Food and dried root helps with pain. You nod. She doesn't ask what kind of pain. She just knows there will be some. Then she turns and walks away. No blessing, no warning, just that same limp fading into the mist. You and your daughter move again, faster now. The path opens into trees, not a forest, just enough trees to hide the road from the village. You breathe slower. The weight in your chest eases, not because you're safe, but because you're moving. And that, for the first time in years, feels like a kind of safety. You walk through the night, the moon behind you, the house behind you, even your name, maybe, behind you. Your daughter doesn't speak until the sky begins to gray. What now? She whispers. You pause. Feel the ache in your knees, the rub of cloth against your shoulder. You say, "We walk." She nods and keeps walking. That's all you have, really. A direction. Not a destination. Not yet. Just a promise you made to yourself. A whispered thing, said when no one else was listening. You said, "I will not die in silence." And now, you're making it true. Later, you find a place beneath a tree. You sit, share the root from the woman's pouch. Chew slowly, bitter but calming. Your daughter leans against you. You run your fingers through her braid. Undo it gently, re-braid it again. Not tighter, just neater, the way your mother did once when you were brave and small. You rest your head back against the bark. The birds begin to call. A new day begins, and for the first time, it isn't borrowed. It's yours. Sleep now. The road is long, but it's yours too, and you are not forgotten. Not anymore.
The note disappears by morning, the one that said, "I saw you at supper." You didn't hide it, didn't move it, just left it on the desk, bare and ordinary like any other scrap. And by dawn, it was gone. No trace, no sound, no scolding. Only the ribbon in your book slightly shifted, as if someone had turned a page. That morning, your steps carry more meaning. You don't rush, you don't tiptoe, but you listen, not for words, but for quiet. The kind that wraps around shared secrets. You pass the maid in the corridor. She doesn't speak, she doesn't nod, but when her sleeve brushes yours, you feel the edge of paper tucked under her cuff. She doesn't give it to you, and that's how you know it's not time yet. The steward asks you no questions, but the bread is fresh again, the soup seasoned better, the wine no longer sour. Tiny changes, too subtle to be decisions, but too deliberate to be accidents. At supper, the seats are fewer. The priest is absent. A few guards stand further from the doors. Your husband glances toward you once, not long, but long enough to register that you're wearing the green dress again. Still no comment.
But silence in this place is its own kind of language. You've grown fluent in it. After the meal, you walk the hall alone. Your footsteps echo, and then you notice it, near the end of the West Passage, past the chapel arch, a door you haven't seen open in months. Not wide, just not closed. A hairline crack between the frame and the light. The Tower Records Room, supposedly sealed since last summer. You pause, then walk past it. You don't push it open. You don't need to. It isn't about what's inside. It's about the fact that someone left it unlatched. That night, you return to your chamber slowly. The fire burns bright, warmer than usual. The coals arranged neatly, deliberately, as if someone tended it not for heat, but for welcome. You sit near it, and this time you write again. Not a full page, just a sentence. One you've never allowed yourself before. I am not waiting anymore. You place it beneath your ribbon. You don't press the book shut. You leave it open. Let whoever has been reading see your hand. Not your signature, your intention. You wake in the early hours. The fire has gone out. But the book is closed, and the flower has been moved, gently, from one page to another. You smile, just slightly, and you sleep again. In the morning, the wind carries a different sound. Not change, not danger, something else. Like breath before a question. Like a hand resting on a locked door, waiting to knock.
The days are longer now. Not warmer. The frost still clings to windows and settles in the corners of the courtyard, but brighter. The light stays just a little longer on your hands in the afternoon. You sit by the window as it fades. You don't speak, you don't write. You just listen to the castle, and the castle listens back. Your book remains closed, still resting on the desk. But each time you return, it's slightly different. A page turned, a ribbon moved, a pressed flower carefully realigned. You haven't seen them, the reader, the watcher, the someone who knows where to look. But they are careful, and care in this place is its own kind of defiance. In the chapel corridor, a candle burns longer than it should. You notice it flicker as you pass, the way it trails smoke, not upward, but sideways. Someone was there moments before. You feel the warmth still in the stone. Later, you return to the tower room. You haven't visited in days. The stool is still there, the crack in the wall, the dust, the silence. But something new now sits in the corner. A small satchel, untied, unmarked. Inside, a scrap of cloth, a wedge of hard cheese, a small flask. Nothing remarkable, except for the fact that it exists here at all. No one leaves supplies in forgotten rooms, unless they're offering you something unspoken. Not escape, not yet. Just preparedness. You sit beside it. You don't touch it. You let it be what it is. A gesture. A quiet promise. Someone has thought through what you might need. Not today, but someday. You return to your chamber after nightfall. The fire is lit. The book remains undisturbed. But the coin, the one once given to your mother, the one you placed on your desk, is missing. And in its place, something smaller.
a slip of folded parchment. Not sealed, just closed. You unfold it slowly. 5 words. You won't be alone again. You close your eyes. The silence wraps around you like wool. Not heavy, just warm. You place the note in the book. You don't add to it. You don't need to. You've already written enough. Now the silence speaks for you. And someone is listening. You sleep with the fire still burning. You dream not of escape, but of space. Of a room with a door that opens from both sides. Of a chair by a window. Of someone sitting across from you, saying nothing, needing nothing, asking nothing. Just staying. Because you asked once, and they heard you.
The castle breathes around you now. It always did. Stones shifting, fires crackling, voices rising and falling in the distance. But you hear it differently these days. Not like noise, not even like presence, more like intention. Every sound means something now. Even the silences. Especially the silences. You wake late. Not from sleep, from rest. There's a difference. Your body doesn't ache today. Your breath comes steady. The cold doesn't crawl into your sleeves like it used to. The fire is low, but still alive. You rise. Wash. Dress. Slowly. No one knocks. No one hurries you. The maid brings your food, without speaking. She doesn't look at you today, but she doesn't avoid you either. She sets down the tray, folds the cloth over your bread, and leaves the cup turned toward you. Small things, not accidents. You uncover the bread, still warm. You tear it gently and eat in silence. No one watches, and yet you're no longer unseen. You walk the corridor alone. The banners hang quietly. The windows drip with thawed snow. The guards change their posts without fanfare. At the third arch, you pause. Not because anything has changed, but because you feel it changing. A softness in the air. A breath you didn't know you were holding. The door to the northern library is cracked open. You haven't seen it open in over a year. You step closer. Not in fear, just in knowing. Inside, dust motes float like old secrets. The books remain untouched, but the chairs have been moved. One slightly out from the table, the cushion flattened by someone else's weight. And on the table, resting between 2 closed volumes, a page. Not yours, not the watcher's. New. Folded once. You open it. A single line. They speak of you differently now. No name. No context. But you understand. You sit in the old chair. Your finger is pressed lightly against the page. Your name, the one they use in the halls, the one attached to land and title and silence, has always felt like a costume. But this is the first time you've been spoken of without being spoken for.
Later that evening, the steward visits your chamber. He knocks, gently, with hesitation. You open the door. He does not enter. He holds a slip of paper, stiff, formal, and hands it to you without meeting his eyes. Tomorrow, there will be guests. You take it. He bows briefly and leaves. You don't open the note yet. Not until the room is quiet again. Inside, a name you haven't seen in years. Sir Alaric de Glenford. Not a threat, not an enemy. A diplomat. A man of letters. Someone who once taught your brother how to write his name in 2 languages. You remember him faintly. A low voice, too much cologne, a mind always moving 3 steps ahead of conversation. And under his name, a second one. Lady Iselda. You blink. Sit down. Stare at the paper. Iselda. The daughter of the woman who first taught you to read. The girl you once sat beside during sermons, who wrote poems in the margins of hymnals and tore them out before the priest could see. You thought she'd married, moved east, vanished into some other story. But now, she's here. To this place. To you. You fold the paper. Not to hide it, just to hold it closer. You walk to the fire, you warm your hands, and you begin to think. Not of what to say, but of how to be. You don't write tonight. You don't open the old book. You just sit, letting the castle breathe around you again. The wind outside sighs against the shutters. Someone coughs in a distant room. A servant drops a pan 2 floors below. Life continues. But now, it turns toward you. You sleep lightly, not from fear, not from excitement, from readiness, like the quiet before a question, like the hand on a doorknob, like the moment someone says your name, your real name, and waits to see if you'll answer.
The note disappears by morning, the one that said, "I saw you at supper." You didn't hide it, didn't move it, just left it on the desk, bare and ordinary, like any other scrap. And by dawn, it was gone. No trace, no sound, no scolding. Only the ribbon in your book, slightly shifted, as if someone had turned a page. That morning, your steps carry more meaning. You don't rush, you don't tiptoe, but you listen, not for words, but for quiet, the kind that wraps around shared secrets. You pass the maid in the corridor. She doesn't speak, she doesn't nod, but when her sleeve brushes yours, you feel the edge of paper tucked under her cuff. She doesn't give it to you, and that's how you know it's not time yet. The steward asks you no questions, but the bread is fresh again, the soup seasoned better, the wine no longer sour. Tiny changes, too subtle to be decisions, but too deliberate to be accidents. At supper, the seats are fewer. The priest is absent. A few guards stand further from the doors. Your husband glances toward you once, not long, but long enough to register that you're wearing the green dress again. Still no comment. But silence, in this place, is its own kind of language. You've grown fluent in it. After the meal, you walk the hall alone. Your footsteps echo, and then you notice it. Near the end of the west passage, past the chapel arch, a door you haven't seen open in months. Not wide, just not closed. A hairline crack between the frame and the light. The Tower Records Room, supposedly sealed since last summer. You pause, then walk past it. You don't push it open. You don't need to. It isn't about what's inside. It's about the fact that someone left it unlatched. That night, you return to your chamber slowly. The fire burns bright, warmer than usual. The coals arranged neatly, deliberately, as if someone tended it not for heat, but for welcome. You sit near it. And this time, you write again. Not a full page, just a sentence. One you've never allowed yourself before. I am not waiting anymore. You place it beneath your ribbon. You don't press the book shut. You leave it open. Let whoever has been reading see your hand, not your signature, your intention. You wake in the early hours. The fire has gone out, but the book is closed, and the flower has been moved, gently, from one page to another. You smile, just slightly, and you sleep again. In the morning, the wind carries a different sound. Not change, not danger, something else, like breath before a question, like a hand resting on a locked door, waiting to knock.
You meet Iselda in the West Garden, not by arrangement, just by rhythm. The garden is nearly empty this time of year. Only the yew trees remain green, and even they seem tired. But the stones have warmed slightly in the sun, and the bench beneath the broken arch is dry. You sit first. She joins you a moment later. No formal greeting, no curtsy. Just presence. Two women in a garden that forgot how to bloom. You haven't spoken to anyone freely in weeks, months, perhaps. You've spoken, yes, the way expected. Polished words, folded phrases, comments that fit within a place setting. But this is different. Here, the words don't need to be useful. They can just be. I thought you'd forgotten me, you say. Not bitter, just honest. Iselda tilts your head. I tried, but your voice stayed with me. You blink, and then laugh, just once. Soft. Short. Your voice. The thing they tried to quiet. Still echoing in someone else. You talk for over an hour. Not about politics, not about titles, about books. Bread. A cat she once owned that used to steal buttons. A ribbon you once lost under the choir bench. You say her name aloud, and she says yours. Not as it's spoken in court, but as you once told her you wished it were. As if it were a secret, and she never forgot. Later, in your room, the fire is low again. You sit by the desk, the old book open on your lap. You write a new page. Not in fear, not for memory, but simply because the words are finally ready to be said. When I was young, I thought silence was safety, that the less I spoke, the less they'd take.
I didn't know that silence could also be a theft. Not of safety, but of self. You close the book, not with sorrow, with certainty. That evening, Iselda visits your chamber. She brings no servant, no excuse, just herself. You let her in. The fire crackles gently, the shadows flicker, and she sits in the second chair you placed there days ago. You offer her tea. She accepts. And when you hand her the cup, your fingers touch. Briefly. But enough. She doesn't ask what you've written. She doesn't have to. Instead, she sets her cup down and opens a small pouch. Inside, folded cloth, tied with gray thread. She places it in your lap. You don't open it right away. You look at her. She nods. So you pull the thread. And inside, a page. Older than the others. Faded ink. Familiar hand. Your hand. A letter you once wrote. Years ago. One you thought lost. One you slipped into a book and never found again. It begins. I do not know if I will be allowed to say this when the time comes. So I am saying it now. Quietly. To no one. In case someone ever becomes someone else. You stare at the ink. Your throat tightens. And when you finally look up, Iselda says, I kept it. In case you ever came back to yourself. You don't cry, but your hands tremble just once before you fold the page again. You place it on the hearthstone, not to burn, to warm. You sit together for a long time. No more words, no more plans. Just tea gone cold and a second fire, burning not in wood, but in knowing. Later, when she leaves, you walk her to the door. Before it closes, she turns. When the time comes, you'll know what to do, and you won't need permission. Then she's gone. You sleep without closing the shutters. The firelight dances on the wall. And in your dreams, no one speaks for you. You speak for yourself. Softly. And the world listens.
The castle is quiet again. The guests have gone, the extra chairs removed. The dust returns to its usual corners. The guards lean on their spears a little longer. And life, as they call it here, continues. But something has changed. Not the walls, not the rules. You. You rise before the maid knocks. Dress slowly. The gown you choose is the old one, the wool, the gray, the one they thought suited your silence. You wear it like armor now, because it reminds you of who you were when no one else did, and who you are still. You walk the corridor as always, but you pause where you used to hurry. You linger where you once shrank. The walls are the same, but they no longer hold you. Now they frame you. You return to the tower one last time. The satchel is still there.
untouched. You don't take it with you. You don't need to. Its presence is enough. A quiet message. If you ever want to go, you can. You leave something behind instead. The page. The one you wrote after Iselda left your fire. You press it beneath the loose brick by the hearthstone. Folded once, marked with nothing but a thumbprint. You say nothing aloud, but you think, as you stand, for whoever comes next. At supper, your husband says your name. You look at him. You don't smile, but you don't lower your gaze either. He speaks of rain, of repairs, of a letter from a count who never visits. You listen, and you answer once, plainly, clearly, without pause. He blinks, and for the first time in years, he sees you. Not as position, not as proof, as presence. That night you light the fire with one strike. You don't write. You don't need to. The book is closed. The ribbon rests across the cover. The coin is still there. The one they once tried to take, returned by someone who knew what it meant. You sit with your tea, and the silence is no longer heavy. It's warm. Outside the wind shifts. The season is turning, and you're not waiting for it to begin anymore. You're already in it. You are not free in the way stories often pretend. You haven't escaped. You haven't run. You haven't burned anything down. But you have done something harder. You've stayed. You've remembered. You've chosen again and again to keep the quiet things alive. A flower pressed flat. A name remembered correctly. A letter never sent. A truth written only for yourself. The castle will forget you someday. The records will reduce you. The banners will fall. But this moment, this breath, this stillness, this is yours, and you are still here. You sleep without fear, without waiting, without asking. And when the morning comes, you rise.